First and guests, Project 10 is Inspire Your Audience. It was the early 90s when a coworker expressed interest in wanting to join Toastmasters. I'd never heard about it, knew nothing about it, so I didn't say anything. And thought, well, I don't really eat bread. But many years later, I learned about Toastmasters, and I decided to join because we were having a published book coming out. And I wanted to get experience speaking in non-corporate environments for book events, and that was the purpose. While I'll have a lot of personal experiences, my intention is that they'll be germane, and that you'll gain some experience from it. It has been an overwhelmingly positive experience. One of the first things I learned was to prepare for the unexpected. Be prepared. You don't know what's going to happen. I was giving a practice speech with John, my friend and co-editor, and we were in the parking lot of Starbucks. There was a quote by Morris Adler, who said, "Our prayers are answered not when we're given what we ask for, but when we're challenged to be what we can be." I know this quote. I've known it for a really long time. I didn't prepare for this. I was practicing. I looked at him, got to that place, and had no idea what Morris Adler said. Did that ever happen to you? You have to say something, you know it, and if your life depended on it, you could not relay that message. I had no idea. And it might have been only a couple of seconds, but that terror and humiliation and shame and all sorts of other emotions came up. You have to be prepared for the unexpected. When you get some experience, you can change it around or do whatever you have to do. But that was a humbling experience, because what would happen if I did that at the book launch? What would happen if I did that at work? What would happen if I did that here? We had our book launch at Mount Auburn Cemetery. There were over 120 people in the chapel. It was really exciting. We were on the stage, and the president of Mount Auburn Cemetery called me to the podium. And I got up there, and I looked at everyone, and nobody clapped. Admittedly, it seemed pretty hokey at Toastmasters. You get up, people clap, you say your name, people clap. You don't really earn the applause. But I can tell you 100% standing up in front of all those people expecting something from me, I so appreciated all that positive acceptance. Because I could stand there and think, well, why should they clap? I've done nothing. And I was able to go through the whole thing without an or an and just treated it like a practice speech. Prepare for the unexpected. We were at Arlington Town Day a couple of years ago. And John had his business partner with books, and I was busy with a customer selling my photography cards. I was still busy with that person, and all of a sudden I could see someone racing up to the booth, angry, gesticulating, really lots of energy, like sparks coming off of this guy. I finished up with the customer, and this guy rushes up to our booth, and he said that he bought this book on Amazon, and it was terrible, and he hated it, and Amazon would not take it back, and it just was the worst. He had to tell us it was so bad, because there were too many effing birds in this book. Now, I burst out laughing, because that was so unexpected. It was ridiculous, because I wanted to say, but wait a minute, there are raccoons here, and we have frogs and all sorts of other things, rabbits and coyotes and foxes. And instead of being upset or defensive, I thought it was hilarious, because it felt like it was legitimate. We were in business, and we had a complaint. Unfortunately, he wrote a review on Amazon, and it was a 1 star, but he had so many misspelled words. He looked like the type of person he really was, and said that they didn't take it back, and there were too many birds, and so forth and so on. Another thing that I really liked from this whole experience with Toastmasters was the fact that I learned how to connect with an audience. When we first started out, admittedly, I was very nervous, and we had a presentation, and we went through the whole thing. But after a while, you have to ask yourself, how many of these people are birders? Do they really care what a scarlet tanager is or a Canada warbler? You ask first, how many people are birders? Nobody? Okay, you go through the pictures. They like the colorful birds. And if they are birders, they already know what the birds are. That was a very valuable experience. And it also taught me to not be all about myself and my agenda. You get up there and you're nervous and you've got your blinders on, you deliver your speech. You have to tailor it to the people that you're speaking to, and then it gives a better experience for everybody else. So that was very valuable. Another thing that I haven't done as well with was acceptance, self-acceptance. I tend to be very self-critical, and this is a very forgiving environment and a very positive environment, but I still am a little bit self-critical. I have a friend who works in the natural foods industry, like I do, and he was injured, wrote a book, self-published it, and we talked about it. He told me how many books he sold on Amazon, and he was just so grateful that all these people bought books. And admittedly, internally, I was thinking, oh God, I don't need to be selling, what did he do? And he said almost 300 people bought books. I thought, wow, that's amazing. Because we printed 1,500 and sold those in a few months, and then we did a next 1,500, and I was a colossal failure. So it teaches you a little bit about perspective and where you think you should be, because I didn't really understand the book business, and people don't really read books anymore. But I live in a different time, and was hoping for more. And that you have to keep working at it, but that's good, just like with Toastmasters. You have to keep doing your speeches, you have to keep doing your presentations, and being very persistent. Lastly, what Toastmasters taught was to be professional no matter what. When you come to a group, there could be 2 people, and you have to go through your whole program, or it can be a whole audience. And it's best to have, as they say, high intention and low attachment, that you are the same no matter what. You give your speech no matter what to whomever is in the audience. We had a lot of very good events where we thought we would have lots of really great people, but just a couple people showed up, and some we thought would not be very good, and they tended to be really good. One, we didn't think much of it, and we ended up making $400 in 10 minutes at the end. It was amazing. With our book, my greatest goal was to get into Barnes & Noble, and it took over a year, and it was really hard, and they rejected me, but I was persistent, and I kept writing letters about how she should give us a chance and things like that, and she finally did. So everything culminated in an event before Halloween at Braintree. This is a 60,000 square foot facility. There would be thousands of people who'd come the Friday before Halloween. I mean, of course they would come. Well, our first clue that it wasn't going to really be that great was that it took 2 hours to go 20 miles to the Braintree Barnes & Noble. And we got in there, and 60,000 square feet for all the people who would be showing up, and there were 2 cashiers and 3 people in Starbucks, and nobody was in the store. We were partnered with Sam Baltrusis, who is famous in his own right. He writes ghost stories and history, and he has a following, Salem. He really is quite famous for what he does, and they were partnering him with us. We also had a contributor with us. Not a single person showed up. Nobody in this entire facility. And that was kind of demoralizing, but I remembered the lessons that you just be professional no matter what. You never know what your connections are with the one person that's there. He told ghost stories, and we had a great time, and it only took 25 minutes to go back home. And it has been a great journey, and I wanted to thank all of you for listening and for helping me with all the speeches throughout this process. Thank you.